Welcome, everybody. I'm Theodore Whitlow. Today I'm here with Bob Reed, the Executive Director of Term Limits for U.S. Congress, and Dale Graywolf, the National Director of Term Limits for U.S. Congress. Term Limits for U.S. Congress is a grassroots political action committee. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's dive right into the conversation.
Sounds good.
Bob, I've read some of your writing, and you've wrote that for Term Limits for U.S. Congress, there are 4 major players on the board. Who are they?
Well, it's a good question. There's a lot of folks, obviously 82% of Americans want Congress to have term limits. But there's 4 major players on the national board pushing for this to happen. One, of course, is surprisingly to many people, there's actually a caucus in the U.S. Congress that wants this to happen. Now, their strengths and their weaknesses, their strength is obviously visibility. I mean, they've got the media always paying attention, they're good visibility. Unfortunately, right now, they have about a 0% chance of success. I mean, the senior most powerful members, keep in mind, seniority equals authority in Congress. So the senior most powerful members do not want term limits to happen. So you end up with a lot of the younger members of Congress that are supporting term limits. They're not going to get anything passed in Congress. But the reason that they're an important player on the board is that the closer we get to an Article 5 convention for the purpose of adding a term limits amendment to the U.S. Constitution, the closer we get, the higher the probability that Congress will pass an amendment to keep us from having an Article 5 convention. They worry about the precedent, because if we succeed at this one time, the people say, wow, if we don't like what Congress is doing, we can change it. They don't want that to happen. Right now, they like to be the single point for everything that happens in our government. So eventually, I think they're going to end up becoming involved. We get close, they're going to try to pass an amendment. Of course, it's going to have to be a fairly reasonable one, because they know if they try to do something that's too cheesy, that we're just going to keep going on our path until we get a convention called. So they're one of the players. The second one is the Convention of States Project. Now, they have a lot of strength because they're a conservative-leaning, GOP-leaning organization. They're backed by the Tea Party. The major players are from the Tea Party, very much involved. The problem is that they decided to do 3 different amendments all in one package. And if you speak legalese at all, you can look at the application that they put together, and they used and clauses for everything. So the problem there is you can't separate them out. One of the 3 is term limits, and that's great. One of them is balanced budget. Most people agree with that also. The third one is limiting government authority. The Democrat Party sees that as a partisan issue. So their weakness for the Convention of States Project is everywhere they've gone so far. Every state, every vote has been a complete party line divide at best. So you've got the Democrat side that's saying, no way, we're not going to support this package you put out. The GOP, some support it. The others that don't like the idea of an Article 5 convention, they're not supporting it. So they've had success because, like I said, they've got a lot of visibility. They've got a lot of money. So they've succeeded in 17 states. But the states they've succeeded in have been only states where the GOP controls the state house and the state senate. So they're going to run into a brick wall. When they run out of states that have GOP full control of the House and Senate, they run out of paths to success. So that's something that we'll get into a little bit more later. The third member right now, it's a lobbying group, a lobbying company. They have been lobbying at term limits from every level. They started off doing against U.S. Congress, but their approach that they took was knocked down by the U.S. Supreme Court back in, I think it was 1990. So they decided, like I said, this is a business for them. Term limits is their business. So they went ahead and went for individual states and started passing state term limits. And they've even been involved with counties, a little bit of everything. Like I said, it's been a term limit business for 30 years now. Their strength is they've got a lot of experience, and they've got some really good folks working for them. Their downfall is some of the states don't like them because they pass term limits in their states, and a lot of people lost their jobs that way. That's just one issue, but the biggie is people don't like lobbyists. Even if you've got some good folks working for you, as soon as you say the name lobby, a lobbyist, people don't like it. They don't trust you. We have had contact with people in the U.S. Congress and in state Congresses that have specifically told us, oh, okay, you're the activist group. Okay, because we much prefer to deal with activists because that other group, they're just a bunch of lobbyists. So, I mean, that's their weakness. They've got great exposure, they know what they're doing, but people just don't quite trust them everywhere because they're lobbyists. Our group, we are the snail in the race. We're a grassroots organization. We are just normal people. We are learning constantly. You know, I'm a retired engineering scientist. You know, so what do I know about politics? What do I know about this stuff? Just what I've taught myself. So it's a constant growing process. We've learned enough now that we recognize the value of the petitions. We're really pushing that. We equally recognize the fact that we need to educate the public. People need to understand how this works, because most folks are too busy with their regular lives to understand, how does it work? How do you add an amendment to the U.S. Constitution without Congress's approval? So we do our best to do a lot of research, put out a lot of documentation, teaching the folks, how does this work?
And Theodore, if I can jump
Please.
in here, Bob, for a second. What we're finding is that a lot of people, for many years, you know, they've been focused on their own lives and not necessarily on politics, and those things have gone on autopilot for a while. However, as things keep progressing and our government is getting farther and farther away from representing the people, then we're seeing more people saying, wait a minute, you know, they're waking up, they're becoming more involved, and that's people who are drawn to our organization, because when you say activists, we're normal people who are trying and working to take our government back to representing the people rather than, you know, having, you know, government rule. Our government was founded, you know, for the people, by the people. So that's our organization, is to return focus back to the people.
Let me add to that real quick, and then we'll try to cut this short. One of the things a lot of folks don't realize is that term limits crosses all party line divides. It's completely nonpartisan. Because, you know, some people will say, oh, well, you know, you support GOP. No, we're just normal Americans. We have as many Democrats as independents, as Republicans. We have people from the Tea Party, the Green Party.
The libertarians.
We have atheists, we have Christians, we have Buddhists, everyone. This is not like most things that you see where it's divided. I mean, we're dealing with society right now where everything is divided. This is something that crosses all the divides and everyone's working on together. And that is why we are powerful enough that we're going to succeed.